They drained my pond in a single night. No notice, no vote, no warning. And I was 6,000 miles away sitting in a hummus cafe in Tel Aviv completely unaware. The person who ordered it, Victoria Harlow, HOA, president. 30 years old. Eyes like ice. I don't care if your grandfather built it. I need that pond gone by sunrise. The next morning, what used to be a serene koi pond was a pit of rotting mud and dead fish. The stench slapped me in the face the second I stepped out of my car. But what Victoria didn't realize was that the pond she destroyed held the only living proof of a buried crime, one that had been hidden for 15 years. And I had 72 hours to expose it all. If you think an HOA is just a bunch of retirees arguing about lawn height, you're not ready for what comes next. Keep watching. I was watching the sun melt into the Mediterranean orange bleeding into gold when my phone buzzed. Caller ID Olivia Ramos, my neighbor and the only person in Willowbrook Estates who still believed in decency. Her voice was shaking. Elliot, you need to see this right now. Victoria's draining your pond. She's got pumps. I'm live. I didn't believe her, not really. HOA drama always found Olivia, but when she flipped the camera, my world tilted. Floodlights, industrial hoses, my grandfather's koi flailing in ankle-deep water, and Victoria, standing in the middle of it all. Designer blazer, embroidered HOA crest, smirking like she was watching a pest control job. Faster, she snapped. I want it bone dry before dawn. I stared at the screen, frozen. I thought this was petty HOA revenge. But Olivia's next words changed everything, Elliot. This isn't about the pond. It's about what's underneath it. That pond wasn't some backyard luxury. It was history built by my grandfather Mason Hayes in 1945 using hand-picked stones from 48 states he drove through after returning from war. He stocked it with 2 koi, honor, and mercy. I grew up feeding their descendants, listening to him explain water flow bridge design and how every structure was just a conversation with nature. He died when I was 20. We scattered his ashes over that pond. I made a promise to carry on his legacy in both engineering and stewardship. That water was balanced perfectly, the ecosystem thriving. Birds nested nearby. Bees drank from its edge. It took him decades. It took Victoria one night. And the worst part, she knew exactly what it meant to me. That destruction, it wasn't regulation. It was personal. And somewhere deep down I knew this wasn't just about HOA rules. She wanted that legacy erased. Victoria Harlow moved into Willowbrook Estates 3 years ago after her name vanished from corporate circles. Whispers said her startup collapsed. Others said bankruptcy. What nobody questioned was how fast she rose to power. Within 6 months, she was HOA president. She wore her position like a badge of vengeance, crisp white blazer, gold-stitched logo, and a stare that froze every board meeting. Her platform, modern standards, property value, community safety. In practice, written warnings, fines, control. She sent me 18 violations in a year, each one more aggressive. Standing water, mosquito hazard, non-compliant landscaping. The koi pond was her obsession. She claimed it was a health risk, but the real hazard was to her authority. Because that pond didn't just survive war storms and drought, it survived people like her. And deep down I started wondering, was this about power? Or was it about what lay beneath? Through Olivia's phone, I watched in real time as my grandfather's pond was systematically murdered. Industrial pumps roared like beasts ripping away the surface inch by inch. LED floodlights bathed everything in sterile blue-white, casting long shadows across thrashing koi. The fish flipped wildly in shallow water, orange and silver flashing in panic. Some had been with our family for generations. Victoria stood at the edge in that spotless HOA blazer, barking orders like a general. Faster. Every drop. Gone by dawn. A crew of contractors moved with terrifying efficiency. Not local landscapers professionals, no permits, no paperwork, just a woman with a clipboard and a vendetta. When the last pump cut off, there was nothing left but black sludge and lifeless bodies. But even through the screen, I noticed something strange. Victoria wasn't just trying to destroy something. She was trying to hide it. Back in Tel Aviv, I was still trying to breathe when my phone lit up again. Subject line, urgent. Certification breach. Sender, Atlas. Kwan, my business partner and lead investor in our biggest project yet. We were weeks away from finalizing a $15 million federal contract, an eco-sustainable bridge model that used natural water systems to prove long-term environmental viability. And my pond, my grandfather's legacy, was our cornerstone case study. Now, Atlas's voice was tight on the call. Elliot, environmental compliance flagged your site. They're questioning your ecosystem data. They're spooked. You need to fix this fast. I stared at the screen. My chest hollowed. We hadn't just lost a pond. We'd lost proof 50 years of pristine water balance evaporated overnight. And in that moment, I understood Victoria hadn't just attacked my past, she'd just detonated my future. I was on the next flight home. 14 hours, one layover, no sleep, my mind looping like static. Atlas's voice echoed in my head. No pond, no contract. 15 million. Gone. My firm finished. At the airport, I tossed my suitcase onto the conveyor like it owed me something. By the time I buckled into my seat, I was shaking not from fear, but fury. How had Victoria known I'd be out of the country? How did she move so fast, permits equipment execution all within one weekend? This wasn't petty HOA revenge anymore. This was surgical, coordinated, timed down to the minute. The plane lifted off Tel Aviv, glowing below. I stared into the darkness and made a vow I would rebuild what she destroyed. But first, I needed to find out who else wanted that pond erased, and why. I landed just after dawn, drove straight from the airport, heart pounding like a jackhammer. The smell hit first. Rotting fish, sour mud, chemical bite. What used to be a koi pond was now a crater slick sunken and oozing brown sludge. My boots squelched into the mud as I stepped closer. Dead koi lay scattered like casualties from a silent war. Serenity, the largest, a 20-year-old female, floated belly up, her scales dulled to gray. I knelt down. My throat tightened. This wasn't vandalism, it was an execution. Then I saw it plastic hazard flags, industrial barrels, and a laminated sign staked into the ground. Caution hazardous organic waste. Do not remove. Hazardous. They weren't just draining a pond. They were reclassifying it as toxic. And in that moment I realized someone wanted this place buried. Officially. When I got home, a thick envelope was waiting on my doorstep. Inside, a printed invoice, glossy letterhead, HOA logo embossed in gold. Total due $52, $680.24. Breakdown included emergency remediation equipment, rental, biological waste, containment services, soil, decontamination, contaminated, organic removal, fish, they had charged me for the pumps. Charged me for removing the fish, charged me for the very destruction I hadn't consented to, and at the bottom a handwritten note in elegant cursive, due within 30 days to avoid lien enforcement. VH. Victoria had turned my grandfather's legacy into a line item. Not only was I grieving, now I was in debt for a crime I didn't commit, and the message was clear. She wasn't finished. At 9:30 sharp, I marched into the HOA office, a converted garage with fake plants and a motivational poster that read, "Order is peace." Victoria sat behind a gleaming desk, white blazer, spotless, fingers steepled. I dropped the invoice on her table. "This is illegal," I said. She smiled, calm as ever. Elliot, I'm so glad you're finally showing interest in community health and safety. She pulled out a thick binder flipped to a tab. Section 12.7. Emergency remediation may be enacted without notice if a clear health hazard is present. There was no hazard, I snapped. We received multiple complaints, she said flatly, from who I'm afraid that information is confidential. She leaned back smug. You can appeal, but all HOA disputes must go through internal mediation first, 6 to 12 months. And suddenly I understood. She hadn't broken the rules. She'd rewritten them. As I left the HOA office, Phoenix was waiting by the curb camera harness strapped across her chest, eyes burning with exhaustion and fury. I tried everything, Elliot, she said. I called the city the police. They all said it was a civil matter, so I did the only thing left. I documented everything. She handed me her phone. Her live stream had racked up over 53,000 views overnight. The chat was flooded with fire emojis, outrage, and the hashtag #Justice for Elliot footage showed every moment the pumps, the fish, Victoria smiling like a queen of ruin. This isn't just about your pond, Phoenix said. This is about what happens when power has no oversight. She wasn't just filming a tragedy. She was building a case. And for the first time I realized Victoria didn't just destroy something sacred. She did it on camera. That night, Atlas called again, voice-tight words clipped. Elliot, we have a problem. The board had seen Phoenix's live stream. They weren't impressed by the outcry, they were alarmed by the noise. They think it makes us look unstable. If we can't handle a neighborhood HOA, how can we manage a $15 million bridge project? I tried to explain this wasn't a dispute, it was sabotage. But corporate confidence doesn't care about truth, it cares about risk. Atlas paused. They're reviewing our partnership. You have 72 hours to provide new documentation or they'll walk. I stared at the spreadsheet he sent, red flags everywhere. My name, once highlighted in green, was now crossed out. The investors weren't backing me. They were backing away. And just like that, I wasn't just fighting to save a pond, I was fighting to save my name. That night, I tore open every storage box in the garage. Old blueprints, maintenance logs, my grandfather's obsessively labeled files, buried under a folder marked Hydrology, 1943 to 1963. I found it, a county engineering report stamped, signed, and certified. It detailed how Mason Hayes Tutu, veteran and engineer, had designed the pond as part of the neighborhood's original flood management system. It wasn't just decorative. It was infrastructure. A controlled basin that absorbed storm runoff, filtered groundwater, and protected the lower streets from flooding. His calculations were handwritten in pencil, still precise, still elegant. He had built a filtration system from stone and instinct. And Victoria had ripped it out like a weed. I scanned the document and sent it to Atlas with one line. My grandfather didn't just build a pond, he built the reason your bridge can exist. Phoenix wasn't sleeping either. At 2:00 a.m., she called me from her laptop, eyes bloodshot but focused. I've been digging into Victoria's past, she said, and I found something. She screen-shared a court document from 2010. Meridian Industries versus EPA, a water contamination case that ended with 7 people dead and dozens sick. Lead defense attorney Victoria Harlow SQ. I leaned forward. She was a corporate lawyer. Not just that, Phoenix said. She was the one who buried the evidence, suppressed witness testimony, got the case dismissed. She clicked again, a faded press photo. Victoria, shaking hands with Meridian's CEO outside a federal courthouse. This isn't revenge, Phoenix whispered. This is cleanup. And suddenly, everything made sense. The pond wasn't just an eyesore to Victoria. It was a liability. The name Meridian Industries kept surfacing in lawsuits, EPA reports, even cancer registries. Phoenix traced them to 16 communities across 5 states. Same pattern, water contamination, health spikes, legal silence, and always a convenient community redevelopment project right after. Then, she founded a permit application filed 3 weeks before my pond was drained, a pedestrian bridge and environmental drainage solution for Willowbrook Estates. But the engineering specs didn't match any bridge design, they matched a wastewater pipeline. Phoenix zoomed into the schematic. The route cut straight through where my pond used to be. Victoria hadn't just removed an obstacle, she'd cleared a construction site. And worse, the entire project was backed by Meridian. I wasn't just up against a cruel HOA president, I was standing between a chemical giant and their newest cover-up. That night, I sat alone in the garage surrounded by boxes I hadn't opened in years. They smelled like old paper cedar and memory. I found a faded folder marked 1943, Property plus Drainage. Inside, diagrams my grandfather had drawn by hand. Lines flow, arrows, even little koi sketched in the margins. His notes read, Pond system must absorb floodwater from eastern ridge. May save houses below during extreme weather. I stared at those words for a long time. He hadn't just built a pond, he built a shield. I whispered out loud, You knew, didn't you, Grandpa? And suddenly, this wasn't just about the past. It was about what we still had to protect. Phoenix's voice was quiet over the phone that morning. You might want to sit down, Elliot. I've been digging. She'd found 3 HOA amendments, all passed in low-attendance meetings I'd missed while traveling. They rewrote the rules while you were gone. Quiet votes, buried in holiday light safety proposals. I opened the PDFs she sent. The language was surgical, vague enough to avoid resistance, precise enough to justify anything. She knew exactly what she was doing, Phoenix said. She played the long game. And now, she's rewriting reality. I looked outside at the crater. For the first time, I realized this wasn't erosion. It was engineering, just not mine. They're calling it an unlicensed aquaculture operation, now my lawyer said, rubbing his temples. Apparently having koi worth over $500 makes you a fish farmer under county code. I laughed. Then I stopped. Because it wasn't funny. And this, I held up a fake consent form signed by me while I was in Tel Aviv. He looked closely. This is felony-level forgery. It was all crashing in now, health hazard lies, fake permits, new accusations every day. She's buying time, Phoenix said, while she set something else in motion. I nodded, but I still didn't know what. Atlas called again. His voice was raw. They're backing out, Elliot. The investors are scared. No one wants to touch a scandal. I didn't speak. I just stared at the empty pond. The wind stirred the sludge at the bottom. Something glinted a coin. No, the rusted cap of my grandfather's old depth stick. He used to say, You measure what matters, I whispered. This still matters. My phone buzzed again. Phoenix. Elliot. I think I found something you need to see. The morning after the flood, the narrative cracked. Residents who once backed Victoria knocked on my door with soaked shoes and lowered eyes. Elliot. We didn't know. Phoenix posted a comparison video before serene pond koi gliding under blue sky. After flooded streets, children bailing buckets in silence. The hashtag, Bring Back the Pond, trended by noon. Someone started a petition for a full environmental audit, 200 signatures in 24 hours. The HOA office closed for maintenance. Victoria stopped returning calls. Neighbors who once parroted her talking points now gathered in circles trading HOA violation stories like war veterans. One woman said she fined me $200 for wind chimes. Another whispered she threatened lien over a garden gnome. For the first time, we weren't afraid of her title. We were angry at her power, and we were ready to take it back. Phoenix didn't stop digging. Late that night, she called me from the county archives, whispering like she was inside a spy movie. Elliot? Richard Harlow doesn't exist. I blinked. What? She pulled up documents. His name appeared on HOA files, Meridian contracts, and city permits, but every trace before 5 years ago was a ghost trail. No birth certificate, no tax history, no real marriage license. He's not Victoria's ex-husband, she said. He's her co-conspirator, planted here under a false identity. She cross-referenced the construction firm on the pipeline schematics D&D Infrastructure, a subsidiary of a Meridian front company. Then came the photo Victoria and Richard in suits smiling at a gala flanked by Meridian executives. This isn't a family feud, Phoenix said. It's a corporate infiltration. And the pond that was just phase 1. Phoenix requested public records from the county. What she found stitched the timeline together like a crime scene. 3 weeks before my pond was drained, a permit was quietly approved for a pedestrian bridge and stormwater utility project. At first glance, it looked harmless infrastructure beautification green spaces, but the technical specs told a different story. Underground pipe routing, access nodes, pressure valves, all standard components for a wastewater pipeline, and the proposed route. It ran straight through my property, where the pond used to be. Stamped, signed, and authorized using my forged signature. The approval process had taken less than 48 hours. Fast-tracked under an environmental emergency provision. Phoenix whispered, they didn't just destroy the pond for spite. They did it because they needed the land cleared fast. And now we had the paper trail to prove it. That Saturday, I stood in my front yard. 50 neighbors gathered, most for the first time. Tired eyes, crossed arms, and soaked shoes from the flood they never expected. Phoenix set up her camera. We're live in 3, 2... I took a breath. This isn't just about a pond, I said. It's about being lied to, about being used. I held up the permit. Victoria Harlow forged my signature. Meridian Industries is building a pipeline under our homes, and we were never supposed to know. Gasps. Phones raised. Comments flooded in. She did what, where's the HOA now? This is criminal. Behind me, Phoenix flipped her tablet playing side-by-side footage, the drained pond, and Meridian's trucks lining up to dig. No one said a word for 10 seconds. Then an older man near the back spoke up. What do we do now? Within 48 hours, the video reached 300,000 views. Local news showed up. Drones captured aerial shots of the drained pond, the pipeline markers, the flooded homes. Reporters camped outside the HOA office. But Victoria was gone. No statements, no denials. Just a handwritten note taped to the door. Office temporarily closed for safety concerns. The city council called an emergency meeting. EPA officials returned my calls, and a state senator publicly demanded an inquiry. Neighbors posted violations they'd received over the years, hundreds of dollars in fines for things like mailbox color and garden layout. Suddenly, everyone saw it. This wasn't regulation. It was targeted control. And Victoria. She wasn't just missing from the HOA. She was missing, period. And that's when Phoenix got a text from an anonymous source. Check your inbox. She left a trail. Inside Phoenix's inbox was one message. No subject line, no signature, just a location, the community mail kiosk. She found it wedged behind a loose panel, a weathered brown envelope sealed with tape. Inside, a USB drive labeled in marker. If anything happens to me. We plugged it in. Folders unfolded like a confession. Internal memos from Meridian Industries discussing acceptable casualty ratios. Scans of wire transfers from shell companies to Victoria Harlow. Audio recordings of meetings where my pond was referred to as a containment threat. And a video. Victoria. In her car. Eyes red, voice shaking. If you're watching this, I couldn't keep running. I thought I was protecting people, but the truth is worse than I imagined. Meridian isn't done. The screen cut to black. And what came next would change everything. The video resumed. Victoria sat in the driver's seat of a parked car, dashboard lights flickering faintly. She looked nothing like the woman who ordered pumps in a white blazer. Her voice cracked. They said the pipeline was cleanup, but I knew it wasn't. I used to work for Meridian's legal team. I helped them bury lawsuits. I thought I was just doing my job. Then my daughter started showing symptoms, same as the kids from the 2010 case. She paused, choking back a sob. Richard isn't my ex. He's a handler, planted to keep me in line. The bankruptcy, the move here, it was all staged. They told me to become HOA president. They needed someone with authority on the inside. She looked directly into the lens. I thought I was saving my child, but I helped them poison yours. At sunrise they came. FBI vans, EPA trucks, state investigators. They swarmed Willowbrook like a tactical unit, sealing off the old HOA office and seizing Meridian's contractor equipment. Neighbors watched from lawns wrapped in blankets, clutching coffee cups, silent, stunned. At 7:12 a.m., Richard Harlow was pulled from a hotel room 3 towns over. He didn't resist, just smiled like he knew this day would come. Victoria turned herself in voluntarily. No makeup, no entourage. Just a USB in hand and the same white blazer, wrinkled now. Inside Meridian's regional office, agents uncovered hard drives full of black-budget projects, falsified compliance reports, and emails detailing similar operations in 17 other communities. Agent Valdez held a press briefing at City Hall. This is no longer a local investigation. This is environmental racketeering on a national scale. And in that moment we all understood the pond was never just about water. It was about truth. EPA teams brought in engineers, biologists, restoration crews. For weeks they dug, removing layers of sludge, testing groundwater, rebuilding the basin exactly as my grandfather designed it in 1945. I unrolled his original blueprint, edges, yellowed, ink, faded, but still legible. They followed it to the letter. Neighbors volunteered. Kids planted reeds. Phoenix filmed every step, turning cleanup into documentary gold. And then the koi returned. Bright orange and white bodies shimmered in the clear water. New life in a pond built to outlive chaos. The city announced plans to designate it an official community eco-resilience site. The state commissioned similar projects in 6 other neighborhoods where Meridian had operated. One reporter asked me how it felt watching it come full circle. I smiled, watching the fish swim through sunlight. They tried to erase the past. Instead, they reminded us what legacy really means. 2 months later, I got a call from Atlas. "You sitting down, the EPA just awarded us the national contract. 12 bridges, 12 states, each one integrating natural filtration systems modeled after my grandfather's pond." At the signing ceremony, I stood beside the state governor and the head of environmental justice programs. They didn't just want bridges, they wanted symbols. Living proof that infrastructure could honor legacy, protect life, and fight back against corporate harm. And in every design, a koi pond by specification. I named the first one Project Serenity. Phoenix captured it all. Her documentary buried truth. The HOA that broke a corporation premiered online and went viral overnight. The pond they tried to erase. It had become a blueprint for justice. And the bridge they tried to stop. It's just the beginning. Today, the pond is whole again. The koi glide through crystal water, and the stones my grandfather placed by hand are exactly where he left them. We added new ones, too, etched with the names of families who suffered in silence, now finally heard. Phoenix still comes by every weekend. She sits on the same bench my grandfather carved and says, "Sometimes the only way to fight lies is with a camera and a stubborn heart." The past didn't bury us. It taught us how to rebuild. If this story meant something to you, if it made you think about what's worth protecting, maybe share it with someone else who needs to hear it. Like, subscribe. Stay with us, because in a world full of noise, real stories still matter. Thanks for listening. Thanks for believing. We're not done building yet.